done something wrong, because obviously no one's perfect with ADHD, it's even harder to sort of do the norm, in the sense like go along with what the teacher's telling you to do, or do what you're told to do at home. But with ADHD, people expect you to just kick off. They expect that, oh, you've got ADHD, like, he's not doing what he's told to do, he's just going to jump out of the seat and throw things around and go mad. Whereas sort of like, if you just sit down and tell me, just sit down and talk to me, I'll listen. But if you kick off before I've kicked off, that's going to make me kick off. So it's like, you've literally just sparked the reaction, and then you're prejudging the way I'm going to react, which isn't going to make me react in that way. So, in a sense, it's not all the teacher's fault. You've got to try and see it from the teacher's point of view. You're trying to teach this kid, you've got to try and do your job, and they're not listening, which is hard for anyone when you're trying to get someone to listen. I just think, just say to a student or a young kid, just see it from my perspective of how I have to deal with you, and then apply. Normally, at 9 out of 10 times, they might, or probably 8 out of 10 times, they might be like, alright, well, it's a bit hard. Or other times, they should be like, no, it's all out. But then you just got to let them go with it, like, I've got 5 minutes. No matter how much you study on ADHD, no matter how much you know or think you know, you will never understand unless you have it, to the extent of what it will, of how it affects people. Unless you have it, you're not going to understand. Because with ADHD, your thought patterns change so much, it changes so quickly and so rapidly, that you could be at one extreme to another. It's almost bipolar. Because you can either go really angry and then just go, you know what, okay, and just literally, anger just goes. Or you can be really good and then someone says one thing and it's just like, it just sets you off. So you won't understand because the thought process isn't stable, in a sense. You experience so many ranges of different emotions, different feelings, and ways one simple thing can affect your mind in so many different ways. It's so hard to comprehend, even especially for a person with ADHD. It's so hard to understand why this is happening to me, why it's affecting me the way it is, and how to control it. I mean, I've controlled it pretty well because I've actually sat down so many times, when I was younger, so many times I sat down frustrated and actually crying because I was so angry at the fact that I can't cope with the most simplest of tasks, the simplest of situations. But I just sat there and I had to focus on it. I like to see myself as a representative for other people with ADHD that haven't gone through this stage, haven't been where I've been yet because I was too young, or weren't in the right situations, or didn't have the right people around me. I'm lucky enough that I've had the right people around me, especially like Val and my mum and Dr. Sweet and everything around me that has actually sat down and focused and said, right, you're going off on one, so let's look at a different way to actually deal with this rather than just going, get out of my class or do whatever. Sometimes you just need to let the person just have the 5 minutes or have the 10 minutes and walk around, and then if they're in the situation again, maybe they might understand it better. And I try not to take life too seriously. Obviously, I've had depression, things like that, which I'm quite open to say because I've been through it, I've experienced it, and I'm over it. But I've had depression, suicidal thoughts and everything. I've been to the lowest place I've ever thought anyone could go. I've been to hell and back. It's literally the worst. Feeling alone and distant. You can be in a room full of people like this and I feel like I don't even exist, like you can't even see me. So going through that is really hard because you take everything so seriously. The minute thing, the most minute thing someone says to you can ruin your whole day. Just one little thing. So I personally try not to take life too seriously. If someone says something to me that I don't agree with, I don't like, I just think, look, it's your opinion, whatever you want to say, just get on with it, just deal with it. Whereas before I'd kick off and be angry. So just basically try and not take everything to heart. Happiness is the best cure for someone with ADHD. You can't find anything that will engage someone with ADHD more than making them happy. In a situation they're happy in. Whether it's challenging, whether it's just in an everyday home or in school, it's just you have to keep them happy. It's a hard thing to do, but that's how the focus is going to stay on you and what they need to do. A lot of people with ADHD like to be in charge. They like to be ahead of us. Obviously, when you've got like group tasks, so we used to have group tasks like creativity and things like that. Try and sort of see if they want to be in charge of me. Obviously, sometimes it's not fair, but just sort of try and see if you can pick a leader, and then they might probably want to be the leader because we're quite creative. I quite like to follow, so I like to see what everyone else does before I will then put in my ideas. That's my personal experience. But a lot of the time, people with ADHD want to be leaders and in charge. So yeah, just sort of keep them involved, like engage and set incentives. So that's an incentive for them to, it's a challenge for them to bring out their creativity. So yeah, just basically keep them engaged. In school, when it comes to the actual school itself, I had no input at all whatsoever. I was very secluded and very much, if you don't do what you're told to do, get out, sort of thing. Whereas in school, I had no input in anything that basically happened around me. When Ofsted come in, they told me I need to spend the day in the special unit area. I think it's just called the unit. I got told I had to spend the day in there for just as like a day off for myself, like a calm day for myself. From year 7 to about year 9, I realised that. I thought, oh yeah, like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's a chill day for myself. But then after that, because I didn't know when Ofsted coming in, I never paid attention to that. Then after that, when I got a bit older and got a bit more sense, I realised they were just keeping me out of the way. So I was very secluded, and I used to literally just stay in one room all day, just either do some work or chill or something like that. But yeah, so they were very much, let's get him out of the way so we look better, sort of thing. So I don't have a good experience in school when it comes to actually dealing with me, because I was just basically pushed to the back just so they can look better for themselves. Which after that, I wasn't really great at school. I was horrible at school, basically. It wasn't until after I left that I realised. So after that, when I realised they would just keep me out of the way, on special days like that, I'd make sure I know when they come in, and then act up even more to make them look worse, because like for the past 5 years, they've been keeping, or 3 years, whatever, they've been keeping me out of the way just to make themselves look better. So I thought I'd like to flip it around and make it worse. So, which wasn't always good, but that's sort of like the retaliation thing. If you're going to do something to me, I'm going to do something back, like same with shouting and that sort of thing. Because if you're going to do something to me, I said, I'm going to flip it around. Yeah, so I didn't have a good experience in school about how I was dealt with.